going on here? Hello, and welcome to Uptown Tonight. It is November 23rd, the day before Turkey Day, and it was a beautiful day out today. Man, it almost hit 40 degrees. Did it hit 40 degrees, Ken?
39.
39, so it's just skating right on 40 degrees there. But, I got a lot of scraping on my driveway done. Not like you can really tell, but I really did. We got some work done outside, everything else. And it's, it's been a great day, at least for me, and all that fun stuff. But this is the Uptown Tonight Podcast, the FM area's weekly entertainment podcast, where we do believe that a rising tide does raise all ships. And I'm sure Ken can really back me up on that. At least that's
Absolutely.
Statement alone. But I am your host, Mr. Wayne Stollenfacher, or Discount Tom Cruise, or they call me Tom Brady. Steve Jobs, I don't get it. I collect Apple computers, but that just gets weird. So I'm going to talk
that.
The old Apple II right here, running everything straight through that guy right there. So we're going to get into at least what I did this past weekend, which is basically nothing, but I always got to talk about our merch. We do have Uptown merch out there. You can find that and get it from us on the stage. We do not have it online just of yet. But let's see, we'll be out at the Angry Beaver in Oaks and then up in Grand Forks at the Southtown Poorhouse this weekend. So if you're in either of those areas and you want to help us out, keep us on the road, pay for that gas money and all that fun stuff, which is getting expensive, help us out, get an Uptown shirt. And then there's ZB's. He doesn't sound like that anymore, does he, Ken?
No.
That was him a little over a year ago.
Well, he's grown a lot in a year.
Oh, yeah.
And the voice along with it.
And then we got Cito there. He's hugging old Junior. Junior helps us at least promote our merch we got right there at the Uptown thing. And then ZB does say, support our troops. Please do that. My son is in the military at the moment, so we definitely need to support our troops. And then we have to get to the not so fun part about this past week. This past week we lost I think he's a very good friend of everybody. He's just one of those guys that once you met him, you just felt like he was part of the family. And you didn't really have to spend much time with him at all. It was just the kindest person ever. That was Chris Hanson. I know it was like a week ago today. A week ago today. Yeah, it was a week ago today. He had I think it was a stroke. He can't quote me on any of this stuff, but he finally passed away on Sunday. And I have all the funeral arrangements and stuff down below in the link. So if you're looking to find out like where the wake is and where the funeral is, that's all linked down below. I know I played in the church band with him. Literally a couple weeks before that, we were scheduled to play at the mall next week and everything else, and he definitely touched a lot of lives. That's going to be a huge hole to fill. And Chris, if you can hear this, we miss you, man, already. So, Chris Hanson. Hopefully next week we're going to have like a little memorial thing. Well, not a memorial, but a little round table stories about Chris next week. So that goes with that. But enough with me and everything else. We got Mr. Ken Bartz here of Kensfm, and I've been really excited to have you on just because you're a radio guy, and I don't know, I kind of fake it doing this type of stuff.
I think we all kind of do that. It's a primitive way of acting, I guess you could call it that.
Interesting. I never thought of it that way, but
but you in radio, obviously you have one sense that you're dealing with. And that's it. It's voice. It's audio. And you've got to create your image. You've got to create your entire set and everything by what people hear and what you're saying. And so, in a way, that's acting, isn't it?
Oh, it has to be, yeah. How do you keep everyone interested? Like, you talk to me now, I don't talk like this high and all excited all the time. Oh, God. I get pretty annoying. So, Ken, let's hear your story. Where'd you come from and everything else?
Well, the original thing... If you, I think I sent you a picture of a Montgomery Ward blue 6-transistor radio.
Oh, you did.
And
I popped that up?
Yeah, and that's where it all started. Okay. I bought that with, you're close.
Yep, I grabbed a few other photos just because I was interested in what's going on. Let's find that one quick. There it is. Yep.
That was my first radio. I bought that, it had to be early 60s. When transistors first came out, and they revolutionized the electronic industry, and they made radio the only portable electronic medium on the planet. So that's why everybody they were building these things by the gazillions. And I spent $12, I think, of my paper route money. I had a paper route back then. You're going to love this.
So did I.
$3 a week.
$3 a week?
That's what I made.
Oh, man, that's what
And
it felt
then,
like I made.
so it took, a month or two to save up for this.
How much would a radio like that would have
About
been?
$12. It was
$12.
And I paid my dad $12 in cash, and I think he wrote a check to Montgomery Ward and bought it and got it. And I think over the course of the next few years I had that, I helped keep Everready Company in business with batteries.
What kind of batteries that one take?
It was just a little 9-volt.
Okay.
And I was always running down to the hardware store to get a 9-volt battery because I'd burn them up. And the beautiful thing that really captivated me with this radio was that I could put it under my pillow at night, and it was an AM radio, and I could hear the big 50,000 watt powerhouses all over the country with it. The two of the biggest stations were KOMA down in Oklahoma City and WLS out of Chicago. They
up here?
Yes, there's a phenomena. Maybe people are losing it these days, but there's a phenomenon called skip, and it's something that transitions between daylight hours and nighttime hours, where the atmosphere changes, and a place up in the sky called the ionosphere changes density at night and reflects signals back to Earth, and that's why shortwave radio is so big at night, because it utilizes skip. Well, AM does that at night too. And of course, you live here in town, you get all the local stations, that covers up a lot. But I lived in Beach, North Dakota. Do you know where Beach, North Dakota is?
I know where Beach, North Dakota is, simply because it was I was on a NDSU wind ensemble band tour. We were going to Montana. And everyone else got stuck in a snowstorm, and I was literally going through Beach, and I was like right next to the Montana border, right? Yep.
Mile and 2/5, I think.
And that's where we got called back to come turn around, and then where did we stay at? I was at where they have the big show, Medora. We had stayed in Medora that night, waiting for everyone else to get through the snow. So, yep, I know where Beach is at. That's a long trip.
Well, I grew up there, and obviously there isn't a lot to do in Beach.
I would imagine, no.
So, and then no local stations. So everything that I listened to came in via skip at night. And the beautiful thing was that these stations, they were top 40. They played rock and roll. And that was a godsend to me, a kid that liked rock and roll. So here I was in my bed, not sleeping, but trying to sleep, listening to KOMA, listening to WLS at night, and they were having the time of their lives. These DJs were awesome. They were entertaining. They were fun. They were funny. It was a thrill to listen to them. And then between their banter, they played rock and roll. Some of the best rock and roll that ever lived. The Rolling Stones, Mamas and Papas, they played them all. And over and over and over, of course. But the thing that I remember the most was what captivated me the most was that they were having so much fun doing what they were doing. Yes. It was projecting to me. And I kept saying, I want to do that. I want to be able to have fun broadcasting. I want to be able to be funny, and I wanted to be able to entertain and play rock and roll. That's what I wanted to do. And so that's where the dream began. That's where it all began, with that little 6-transistor radio. And it all started with that. I used to listen and listen and listen, and oh geez, I tried hooking up other antennas to it, other speakers to it, yes. Hence the reason where this all came about. But as it enhanced, I realized that, okay, what am I going to need? There's a lot of things that I wasn't seeing back then, because when you're a 9-year-old kid, your focus is a little bit narrow.
A little bit.
But I was thinking, okay, what I didn't realize is, A, the disc jockeys that I was listening to, they were getting paid to be funny. They were getting paid to do their job. They were getting paid to bring listeners to the station so the station could still sell advertising. They were doing all of this. I had no idea about that, and it hadn't entered my brain at all. And then the owners of the radio station they were broadcasting over, I had no idea who they were, what it took to be an owner, anything like that. I had no concept. All I knew is that signal was beaming down into that little 6-transistor radio from thousands of miles away and over the atmosphere. And I was thinking, well, how am I going to do this? I got to find some way to build a radio station. What's it going to be? How what do I got to have? And so I started looking up. We didn't have internet back then, back in the 60s. So all we had was newspapers and the local library. And so I was at the library and different, articles and things like that to find out what did I need to build a radio station. Well, first thing you need is a transmitter. Okay, what's a transmitter? And then, so you start, this is where it all started.
Exactly.
And then
curiosity.
I kept going, and I said, well, all right, you need something to put together your programming with, a studio. What's a studio, and what do I got to have in it?
Yeah,
the first thing I thought of is, well, they play records, so I'm going to need a record player. And the guy talks, so I'm going to need a microphone. And so I started pricing all of this stuff. And the first thing I looked at was, okay, these guys are 50,000 watt radio stations. What does a 50,000 watt transmitter cost?
I couldn't imagine. I just remember reading Steve Jobs stuff and him talking about how they used to get sourcing, basically finding old chips and stuff that they would sell, and just single transistors that he'd sell for hundreds of dollars. And that's 60s money, yeah.
Yeah, I started finding different periodicals, different wish books type things that are like magazines.
Yeah.
And I was starting to look at the prices, and the prices would have like a 1.
The expression on your face, the prices.
And the prices were astronomical. From a kid that made $3 a week to a transmitter that had a 1 and then a bunch of commas and zeros after it, obviously out of my reach. The first thing that came to mind is, Ken, you're going to have a really good job if you're going to do this. And then there were other things that I never even thought of. There's a regulation organization called the FCC.
Oh, yeah.
And you got to have a license for one of these things. And it's not easy to get a license. You got to apply for it, and you got to qualify for it and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, I had no idea. So I went through my earlier years just figuring out how I was going to do this. One day, my dad comes home. He's got a flyer he got from the local radio and TV guy. And it said on it, "Be a broadcaster, station FUN." It was a kit.
Oh, nice.
And for $12, where's this $12 come from?
I don't know. It's definitely a recurring theme.
You could get a kit.
Was it a Keith kit?
No, it wasn't. I built a bunch of those.
Oh, I bet.
But this was a different. I remembered it being a plastic cased thing. It was red. It had a little antenna that stuck out the top of the case. And then it had a crystal microphone that sounded like crap. And I had figured out a way to hook a phonograph up to it.
Oh, awesome.
And hence my radio station.
There we go.
Well, the kit, I remember saving up and then having him order it. And I would go down to the local TV and radio guy every day at 3:30 after school to ask him if it had come in yet. Because everything came in through the Postal Service, I guess.
Of course.
Those days. Well, it was about 2 weeks, and finally, all of a sudden, sure enough, it showed up. And it came in a box about this big, and it was a kit, and you learned as you built it.
Mm-hmm.
It was an educational kit. And I think that's what, triggered Dad, because he's, this kid's going to learn something, And so, fine, that's what I did. I put it together, and set it up. It ran on batteries, not 9 volts. It ran on a couple of C cells, I think.
Okay.
But set it up in my basement, my dad's basement, and I had a manual phonograph. It was a coast to coast $19 special.
Coast to coast, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, and it was one of these. You put the tone arm on the turntable.
Oh,
you know, manual guys, not automatic. And my first job was to figure out how to hook the output of that to this little transmitter. And I had all kinds of problems with it because I was really a novice. And the problem was there was such a big, huge mismatch because the microphone has low level going into the transmitter, but a phonograph has a lot higher level. Okay. And of course, when I would hook the two together, it would be all distorted. And I was thinking, well, how do I handle this? And so I just used what I had for resources. And the phonograph has a cartridge where the needle is.
Yep.
And that's where the original sound starts. And then from there, it goes down into an amplifier. And I decided, well, I got to bypass all of that because that's extra gain I can't use. And so I took the wires right out of the tone arm. And
how old were you when you're figuring all this out?
About 12.
Jeez.
14.
So I think that's what everyone's missing these days. Man, that's awesome.
But you did it yourself.
Yeah.
I finally figured out with some old radios, I had some capacitors. And I found out that if you put a capacitor across the line of the cartridge, it reduced the level.
Filtering capacitors.
And I found the biggest capacitor I could find, and I put it across it, and then I turned it on and turned the radio on, and it wasn't distorted, and it sounded awesome. And so my first Beach Boy song on the radio was Barbara Ann.
Nice.
And I went upstairs with the transistor radio and showed Mom and Dad, here, this is my radio station. It sounds just like K-Fire. KFYR was the big station that we used to listen to out on the west end of the state.
That is sweet. Wow.
That was my first experience. And
that set the hook in right there, right?
Yep. And then, oh yeah, I was hooked forever now. The after that, it was more, obviously they were Part 15 approved, those little transmitters, so you didn't go very far. And I remember playing songs for my neighbors.
Okay.
And they would request, and they got to know my library pretty good. And so they would come over and say, hey, Ken, play this, play that. And then I'd play it for them, and that was my first audience.
Nice.
On this little $12 kit.
That is sweet. So how long did that last? It was like that, obviously a kit thing, it's probably not meant to be around very long, but...
It lasted... It lasted until I modified it to the point where it wouldn't work anymore. Because I was constantly trying to improve it. Yeah. Constantly trying to improve it, get more power out of it, get more range, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, but by that time, going through high school and college, I was starting to get a little better versed on what I needed to actually do this and to actually start building something closer to a studio. And slowly, surely, I started gaining extra equipment. There's some pictures that you've got of an old studio. One of the first studios.
Not that one.
There you are.
There we go.
That console is a Gates Dulux 2 from 1967. And I had found that one of the local public stations on campus here, I think MSU, had thrown it out. And it was in the dumpster.
Thrown it out?
Yes. And that was the first console I ever worked on out of school. I went to Brown Institute down in Minneapolis in 74.
Okay.
And in 74, I got a job down at KCHF down in Sioux Falls.
Nice.
And they had that console. So that's the first one I ever had to work on. And so that, that holds a place in my heart. And I said, nobody throws away that console. And so I grabbed it and brought it home. And it wasn't in too bad a shape. it needed some work, and I got it fixed and working, and that really was our first studio mixer. That was our first console that we ever used. Back in those days, it was still little Part 15 guys that I've been building.
Okay.
And when the internet came around, we started doing streaming online. And it wasn't until 1998 that I had the wherewithal to be able to actually apply with the FCC to get an actual license.
This is a good 20 years after the fact. Yeah.
And then
let's reverse you here quick. Is that just your education? So you went from beach, obviously you probably graduated from there, right?
Yep.
And then you went to the cities area?
Yeah.
I forgot.
Brown Institute is Minneapolis.
Yeah, exactly. Brown Institute. What'd you go there for? Like
radio broadcasting.
Okay.
Yep. There were two things. Back in those days, you could make a lot more money if you were an engineer and a DJ at the same time.
Oh, wow.
A combo man.
Yep.
And I had the background of both. And I was technically inclined. And then the only thing I needed was voice training. And to this day, I still need voice training. But that was the reason why I went to Brown Institute, was to not only did they teach you all of this, but they also found you a job.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Interesting.
It's one of those deals where the school had all kinds of leads out.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think the week I graduated, or 3 weeks before I graduated, we did what is called an audition tape at the school, where you basically record and people hear what you sound like.
There you go.
And so we did that, and they sent out the tapes to a bunch of stations. And the station down in Sioux Falls calls back and says, "Ken, I like your voice. Can you come down here?" So, well, I graduate in 3 weeks. Can we wait? Well, we just didn't have you now, but I guess if we have to wait 3 weeks, we can do that. And so I had a job right out of the kitty.
Right out of the gate.
Yep.
Oh, man.
And so that was good. Sioux Falls is not a small market.
No.
It was a small station. It was a Class A, 3 kilowatt FM and 500 watt AM. Guess where the AM was? 1520. Same frequency as KOMA, the station I used to listen to. But the little 500 watter was a daytime, because you could put daytime signals on Clear Channel nighttime as long as you shut them off.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Hence the reason why some stations shut off during the night, and others go to directional. They aim their signal a certain ways to protect other stations.
Huh.
A lot of this is
I'm learning a lot here. This is interesting.
This is all information that I gathered over the years, just being a sponge, wanting this information.
Yeah.
So I knew how to do this. And so it was pretty cool. I spent a year at Brown Institute from 73 to 74. And then from there on in, it was all radio. I've got some television experience.
Okay.
I worked for Channel 2 out in Dickinson as an engineer. And then I also worked for Prairie Public Television.
Oh, nice.
As a duty director. And those are some of the best years of my life, too.
Was that in town here then?
Yep.
Okay.
They were on South University Drive.
Do you know Wes then? I'm trying to think of Wes's last name. I don't know.
I know some Wes's, yeah. But
yeah,
this would have
been more of the marketing stuff over there.
Yeah. I was there in the 80s. I think 1980s when I moved down here.
Okay.
So I worked there from 1980 to 1983. And then from there I went back into radio. I had been doing some part-time work for KQWB, AM and FM.
Gotcha, yeah.
And they liked me. And they knew that I had an engineering background as well. And their engineer was leaving. And so that position opened up. And they offered me a full-time job as chief engineer.
Nice.
And so I jumped ship to be back into radio. And it kind of just kept on going. A lot of things have changed in radio. And the sad part of it is, radio is not what it used to be. We're talking about the glory days of radio right here.
Okay.
When it was fun.
Yeah.
When it was interesting. When there was a lot to do, and when you felt proud about the service that you were providing, that you felt proud about what you were doing. And nowadays that has really changed because, well, the bottom dropped out in 1995 when the Telecommunications Act got dropped, when ownership limits opened up and big corporations could put out their tentacles and own all kinds of stations.
Oh, that's like where iHeart and all that stuff came into play?
That's where it all came from.
Okay.
Now, the problem was, when you do that, you have a lot of bean counters controlling everything.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have bean counters controlling everything, and you're actually controlling a service, those two don't always go well together.
I wouldn't imagine.
And so what happened was that the service dropped out of radio. And that was really what was holding the listener's interest, was the service they were getting, the entertainment they were getting.
Exactly, yeah.
And when you got one owner for tons of stations, all in the same market, nobody competes. When you compete, the listener wins.
Oh, yeah, things will get better.
And so that's what's been going on for, since 1995, almost 30 years. So yeah, corporate radio has had almost 30 years to kill off radio. They're doing a pretty good job.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, there are still stations like Kensfm out there that have this original vision yet to be able to provide a service to the community. And what our station does is two things. We offer new original programming. We play a lot of modern rock, a lot of new music, so everything's fresh. And we also support the local music community. We let local bands come over to our studio, play live, and for their audience, and we don't charge anything for it. It's completely free. And of course, we don't get anything for it either. Or they don't get anything for it. It's all a freebie.
Oh, yeah.
And then we record their performances, and we give them a copy of the recording to do whatever they want. If they want to monitor it, listen to it, and say, well, we can improve that. Or if they want to put it on a CD and sell it, they can do that. They're wide open to do whatever they want. And we've been doing this we signed on in 2012, and we've been doing this for 10 years.
Okay. When did you decide to actually go into all this stuff? Now, I'm going to hold you at that question because I forgot to go into one topic here that we do have this November. It is No Shave November, and there's Hanson again. And we do have our Dan Brecky No Shave November.
As inspired by this year's No Shave November, we proudly bring you Dan Brecky's Epic Battle of the...
So this week you got 4 to choose from. Who has the most epic beard out there? Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Or is it D? Make your vote down below in the comment section, please. Last week again, we edged out by Dan by 1 vote. So we got 4 to choose from this time. So who's got the most epic beard up there? We only have 1 more of these installments left for next week for the No Shave November. So make your votes down below or in the chats or wherever you want to do it. All right. So now we're going to get back to why or what was the main reason that, well, what made you jump ship to start? I don't want to say jump ship. That's a bad way of saying it. It's just more of you wanted to get this started on your own, I'm assuming.
Yep.
It's like, what finally clicked in your head? Why did you actually just step into that arena?
It was real simple. It still goes back to that 6 transistor radio. What I was listening to, I wanted to be a part of.
Ah.
And I thought, if there's going to be a career out of this, I can make one. And that's what I did. And so it was a dream that started way back with that little transistor radio,
Yes.
that I wanted to be a broadcaster. I wanted to be a station owner. I wanted to build, and I wanted to entertain, and I wanted to provide a service to people. And I heard the way these guys were doing it, and the fun that they were having, and how interested it was, and how it captivated me. I would listen all night to these guys. It was amazing. No wonder I slept through my classes. But I would listen all night because Skip takes place from the time the sun goes down to the time it comes up.
How's it going? That long, really?
Yep.
Wow.
And what happens is there are two different layers of the ionosphere that work together and against each other. There's a D layer of the ionosphere, which is closer to the Earth, and that gets ionized real heavy during the daytime, and so it blocks any radio signals that go through it. Now, at night, the upper layer, the E layer, has much more intense ionization because of the sun during the day,
Okay.
and so it lasts longer. The D layer fades away right after sunset, and then you have the E layer, F layer, I think. I'm getting things confused here, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But there are two different layers that work between day and night. The D layer is the one closest to the Earth, and that fades away at night, permitting signals to go through and bounce off the F layer and then back to Earth. And that's how you're hearing it at night.
Oh, wow.
You can tune in any AM radio right now and go up into the upper end of the band where there isn't a lot of stuff, and you're going to hear those big 50 kilowatters. You can still hear WLS. You can still hear KOMA. They're all still out there. Their programming has changed a lot. WLS, I think, is
I would
mostly
have
all
to check
talk,
this out later. I have to grab
but
some
they
things
are
from
there. What has fascinated me a lot these days is I think it's WMAQ or WGN out of Chicago. Late at night, at about 11 o'clock, they will run classic Mystery Theaters radio voice.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And it's easy to pick them up because they're some of these big 50 kilowatters. And there's a certain kind of, what should I say? There's a certain kind of aura about hearing Skip at night because it's not consistent. It fades and invert phases and it fades
Okay.
and gives you a real eerie effect that you're hearing something from another planet or distant far away. And you
Yeah.
really are,
You are. Yeah, exactly.
because obviously the F layer of the atmosphere is not a perfect mirror. It moves, and then as it moves and drifts around, it changes what you're hearing because the reflection changes, and it's really awesome. Some of the shortwave signals that you pick up, even in the United States here, will do that. And the fading in and out is not that big a deal. It's more annoying than anything. But it's what happens to the signal as it's fading in and out. It will invert phase. You'll hear all kinds of really strange effects as they fade in and out. And then underneath all of that will be the music that you're trying to hear. It's really kind of cool.
That is
But
I gotta check that out later tonight.
But yeah, listening under that pillows at night, it was amazing. My brain was in tune because those top 40 stations, like all top 40 stations, they repeat, the top 40 songs.
Oh, yes.
And back in those days, early 60s, Sherry by the Four Seasons was one of the big songs. Yep, exactly. And I would wake up every time that song would come on.
Well, that one just kind of stuck with you, huh?
Yes.
No.
And it was really kind of cool. I said, I don't know why I'm doing this, but something in my brain is saying, Ken, it's your favorite song. Wake up. You know? Go figure.
That's beautiful. So we're going to have you explain like how you got Kensfm started and all that other fun stuff. But first, I got to get to our weekly report. So, Cena, we miss you, man. All right, so we're at the Uptown. We're in the windbreak. We got Tripwire tonight. Volume. Heading out for a couple hours will be going on. Jacked Up on Friday, and then Johnny Home will be hitting the stage on Saturday the 26th. Uptown Poorhouse in Grand Forks will be playing there on Saturday 26th on the big stage out there. If you stop by and buy a shirt, that'd be great. Sanctuary, Amber Preston and the Friends tonight, and Fargo Theater, Steve Vai out there tonight. And I did see him at the Fargo Theater. I don't know if it was the last time he was here. I think he's been here a couple of times, the Fargo Theater. And I have seen him down First Avenue in Minneapolis as well. That was a really good show. Doing Pianos will be hitting the stage out Fargo Theater on Saturday the 26th. We're going downtown Acoustic Corner. Tonight, Dan Brecky at Murphy's Pub, it's a couple blocks from here, probably hitting the stage and do Speed Matt Hockery. We have the Midtown Tavern, which is a kind of across town, it's in Morning. And we have Friday, November 25th, Pepper Ashmore's Tailgaters, Rick Adams at the Fargo Country Club. Saturday, November 26th, Rick Adams getting a lot of work this weekend. The VFW in West Fargo. Dan Brecky's getting more work again at Silver Spike, and then Zach Thomas at the Swing Barrel. Downtown, we got the Front Street Tap Room, Vinyl and Vino on Thanksgiving. That's what it said, so maybe they are going on. Then we have open mic night with Travis Negros on Monday the 28th. That's the Stellar Open Mic with Marquay Belcher happening right now on 23rd. And then we have David Scandal, Matt Smith, Josh Lua, Ethan Peterson, Zach Rittenhouse, Aaron Allen, and Nathan Rowe, Chase Reader, and Marquay Belcher, I think is hosting that, and it's a showcase of the area's stand-up comedians. So that'll be really, really fun to go see. All right, we got Specs EDM night on tonight at Specs, and then the M&J Saloon, Tripp and Leslie out there on Saturday the 26th. We're still downtown Dempsey. We have Maddie, Jay, and Friends happening tonight in Winter Sloth. I love that name. On Friday the 25th. Aquarium, we have Wishful Venture, DJ Econ, Slim, Dexterous, and Jordash tonight out there. Then Greg Reckless on Saturday 26th. And Jay Influential, James First Gin, Psychedelic Sidekick, and Jay Gray Buffalo happening out there on Sunday the 17th. Now we're heading out of town. We got the O and the original in Minot. Last win will be playing the Friday, Saturday. Laughing Sun Brewery and Bismarck Mandan, our favorite brewing company in the Bismarck Mandan. We've never actually been there. We have Jesse Faye on Friday the 25th, the Dank on the 26th, and the Bizman Little Big Band. You want to hear some really good jazz? There you go, Monday the 28th. Angry Beavers and Oaks. So there's that Uptown band again. What are they doing out there? And Ojada Records in Grand Forks. We have Swarm, Gentrite, Int. I love these names. So Vito, Martian Takeover, Ruben Cloud. I'm going to say it's Ruben Cloud. On Friday the 25th. And that is our update for the week. So let's get back to Ken and find out all about how you got started, how all this even came about, and what you're doing to this day.
Basically realizing the dream, I guess.
Realizing the dream. And I'm sure there's many steps involved. So what was the first few steps to get this thing going? So I couldn't even imagine how you'd even start a radio station.
Well, the first thing that I realized that I needed to do was I needed to apply. Apply to the FCC for a permit, a construction permit. And then in order to do that, you have to fill out, an application and all of that. And then you have to qualify. And so I had to hire a engineering consultant to find out what frequency I could use, what would be available, what power I could use, and where I could plant the transmitter. These are all regulated. And this is something as a 9-year-old kid I never knew.
Yeah.
So I had to learn all of this. We applied for 89.1 in about 2000. But in 1998, I had already applied for a different frequency at 89.5.
Okay.
Unfortunately, when the FCC got around to granting that, I lost out because there were more than one person applied for that frequency.
Oh, interesting.
And the people that got it ended up, the people that got it were a local church organization, and then they contracted with EMF, which is K-Love. It's Air One now, I think, at 89.5. So we lost that.
Okay.
And I thought, well, okay, there's another window filing opening up, and we decided to apply for another one. This time it was 89.1.
Yeah, this just doesn't sound cheap. That's the whole thing.
No. And I was using everything that I had, all resources.
Oh, wow.
That I had to try to keep this going. So I had an engineering consultant come up with 89.1, and we found a plot of land down there by Barnesville.
Okay.
That we could lease to put a tower on. And so I said, well, here are the coordinates. The consultant came up, we can put a 300-foot tower on there, and with a special antenna, we can give you 100,000 watts.
Oh, nice.
And I said, well, nice. And because the FCC had changed the rules from the first time to the second time that we applied, and the second time they were using a point system, and you qualified if you achieved certain points, and the most points you got means that you got the license. Well, you had to you would get a point if you covered more people with your signal, your proposed signal. You got more points if you covered more area with your signal, and you got more points if you were incorporated for more than 2 years. And it was little things like this that you all got points for. And then, you know, when everybody tallied up the points, whoever got the most points ended up actually getting the construction permit from the FCC.
Oh.
Well, there were 3 people again in our competing. They're called MX groups. And there were 3 people again at 89.1 that all wanted that frequency.
So there's that many people in the area that are trying to get something like this built, or are they just trying to...
They wanted to build.
Okay.
A lot of them are religious organizations that
gotcha.
That want to expand their ministry, and so they'll apply for anything they can. And the other one was, unfortunately, a friend of mine that was involved with a local organization, and they had decided to apply for that frequency as well, which really kind of upset me, because this particular gentleman was a good friend, and I had gotten him his first job in radio back in the days of KQWB and Q98.
Gotcha.
And it was really disheartening that he would have filed against me. And so I did my due diligence and found out that we would, if I applied for maximum everything, we would end up probably with more points than anybody, and then therefore get it. Well, what we did was we applied for what we did. We applied for 100,000 watts from Barnesville, which would not only cover Fargo, Moorhead, but all of the lakes area as well.
Oh, yes.
And the FCC, according to the report, said that our signal would cover 250,000 people. And that's just not summer, you know, because in the summertime you have the resort areas.
Oh, yeah.
Blossom up. So yeah, we tried to cover all our bases that way, and the one allocation was just a little Class A, a little 3 kilowatter, licensed to Barnesville. So it was just a little religious organization that wanted a frequency.
Yep.
And unfortunately, they lost out because they didn't, you know, acquire all of the points. And then the other one that my friend had, we were lucky. Their application was only 70,000 watts. versus our 100,000, they didn't cover as many people and they didn't cover as much area as we did because we were closer to Fargo. And so the FCC decided to grant it to us. And then that's how we started. Our license construction permit was granted in I think it was granted in 2010.
Oh, really? So you started this whole process in 2000? It took 10 years to get all that going?
The FCC had a problem.
Oh, okay.
Because they were going through a reorganization with all this point system stuff. And yeah, our application just sat on the table for like a decade.
Whew.
And so, yeah, there was nothing we could do. I contacted my lawyer several times. What can we do to move this along? Well, the only thing that you're going to be able to do is to buy out all the other people. And there's no way I was going to spend the money to do that. And so we just waited it out. And lo and behold, we won the contest because we came out with the most points. And so from there on in, it was just a matter of building that was just the first hurdle.
Yeah, exactly.
Then all of a sudden, okay, you need a tower. You need a transmitter. You need a building to put this all in.
And this sounds really cheap. Yes.
And of course, I had already had the studio from working with the online stuff before.
Gotcha.
And so that was a given. And so we had to come up with some way to do that. And I think I reiterated a story about this lady in this farmhouse.
About putting up the tower, yeah.
Yes.
You got to tell this story.
Okay, this is funny. I don't think I better mention names because...
No, keep names. Keep all that out of it.
Anyway, the first application was at 89.5, and we had proposed a site out by Sabin for our tower, and it was an old site used by, I believe, Channel 11 in the early days with microwave.
Okay.
But the tower had been taken down, and I was just going to put it back up. Well, there was this lady that lived across the road from that tower that did not want it put back up, and they were going to resist and fight it all the way. And I remember going to the Cass County Commissioners meeting where we all met, and they had it on the agenda to approve, the construction of a tower on that site.
Yep.
And this lady showed up, and she was going through all of the problems with having a tower, that it would cause radiation. So many people had died of cancer in their family and all this sort of stuff. And when she got done, she had gone to online and downloaded a stack of papers about all the problems with radiation from radio towers. And so, being an engineer, I knew what was going on, and I knew it was all fluff. And so my turn came up to a rebuttal or whatever.
Yep.
And I said, okay, here are the facts. We are required by the FCC to monitor and maintain radiation levels within a safe zone for everyone.
As you would think, yes.
So, and I said that the radiation coming off of our tower, if you stood directly in front of it for 150 years, would be less than what you would get standing in front of your microwave waiting for your popcorn to pop.
Wow.
And she didn't like that.
I don't like this idea.
And then she, and then she went on and kept on going, and it says, why do you want to put an obstruction like this? We have beautiful fields out here and all of that. And I said, finally, that everybody was listening because it was actually a standoff. And I said that I am a person that embraces modern technology. I will endorse whatever new technology that I can make use of. And because this lady's background is way different than my background,
Oh, yes.
I can understand that there's a difference here. But I would be damn proud to have a 1,000-foot tower in my backyard. And she just glared at me. And then everybody erupted in the, in the room there, in the commissioner's meeting with laughter. And of course, that really pissed her off.
Oh, yeah.
And then afterwards, we were outside. I was talking with friends, and she came up and says, "Don't you care about people at all anymore?" And I said, "Yeah, we're putting the service on to provide a service to 250,000 people. When was the last time you did that?"
There you go. Yep.
But that was pretty funny, and I guess it solidifies the fact that I was really dedicated on what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and no good story comes without drama too. So yeah.
Oh, there was drama.
Yeah.
But after that, we had to go in front of the township board.
Okay.
And that was simple. It was just on the agenda, and the only thing they asked, "What kind of tower lights are you going to have?" And I said, "Well, we'll have whatever the FAA requires us to have." And they just let it go with that. And they accepted it, and away we went. And so we built our tower, and the first transmitter that we used was an old 1962 Collins FM transmitter
62.
that I had traded hours for from Botno. This transmitter came from Botno, and they had upgraded.
So awesome.
They had upgraded to 100,000 watts too.
Okay.
And of course, they had no use for this old transmitter. And I said, "Well, it's still a working transmitter. I'll trade you hours for it," because I was building their studio for them.
Okay.
And that's the thing that actually has got me this far, is the fact that I do engineering as well. Broadcast
A lot
engineering.
of DIY stuff there, huh? Yep.
And so, being a contract engineer, I was able to generate quite a bit of money doing all of this. And of course, guess where all that money went?
Straight to the passion project.
Yep,
Yes.
exactly.
That's how it
So
should
I
be.
ended up absconding this 1962 Collins 10 kilowatt transmitter, and it was a 3-phase transmitter. I don't know if you know anything about electrical, but the service that you have here at the house,
Just enough to
that is
use
single phase.
Single, gotcha.
And then this is 3-phase, which means there's actually 3 lines that come into the building. Well, the transmitter required 3-phase. Our new tower site had single phase.
Uh-oh.
And so I had to get real creative and try to wire this thing to operate on a single phase supply. Well, when you do that, you end up compromising the power supply in the transmitter,
Gotcha.
because it's not getting what it wants.
Yep.
And so instead of 10 kilowatts, we could only get 5 out of it.
Oh.
And I said, well, that's all right. At least it's 5 kilowatts. We needed 7 kilowatts to make 100,000 watts. And so I tried everything within my means. I put new tubes in it. I cranked everything to the max. Still, no 7 kilowatts. So we had to sign on with like 39,000 watts. And then, lo and behold, I got a call from a station up in Thief River Falls. And they said, "We just put in a new solid state 10 kilowatt transmitter. Do you want our old one?"
Hmm.
And I said, "I know that transmitter. I've worked on it. It's a CCA. It's instead of vintage 62, it was vintage 95.
Oh, God.
A lot newer.
Definitely an upgrade right there.
So I thought,
sky's parted.
they're going to give me free
Free?
a 1995 transmitter that is perfect for our situation. And he said, but you got to move it.
Oh, that's always a caveat.
And so that was an experience. It took 3 of us to, I don't know if you have that up someplace or not. It's on Facebook. No, I don't think it's any of those.
Okay.
That's me in the studio doing some mixing.
I just love the old CRT. So I just had to get
That's actually a station in Morris, KMRS. I rebuilt their studios a number of years ago. And that's a Harris console and one of the first generation digital consoles that were built. And that is interesting. That's our art director for the station. He's volunteer.
Okay.
Trevor Mayer. He's also a sketch artist.
Shout out to Trevor.
Yep, and he did that for me at a remote broadcast at remember what used to be the East Gate?
Yeah.
It was Gio's.
Yep, the turn of
Gio's Pizza or whatever.
I don't think anything's going on.
Anyway, I don't know what's going on there now, but we had a fundraiser there, and he came and did some sketch artists for us, and he did that, and it was really cool.
Me pushing buttons. There we go.
But
that was really good. Yeah, I don't think we have a photo of it. The view in your natural environment.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
The move to get the CCA transmitter, the new transmitter into the building.
Yep.
We had to take out part of one of the walls of the building to get the transmitter in. It's a 1,700-pound transmitter, and we had to use winches. We broke about a half a dozen 2x4s trying to wedge it up into the building. And we got it in there, got it set, and it's never going to move.
It's there for the rest of the time.
But it's able to make full power now, and we've been lucky to be able to broadcast at 100,000 watts since we installed it.
Awesome.
And it's been installed for 3 or 4 years now, I think.
Excellent.
And
full capacity.
So we've been able to run at full power like that. So that, and then the other thing that people don't know is how do we get our signal out to the tower?
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Very good question.
It's a lot of times it's a microwave link.
Okay.
And people will use a 950 meg STL, they call it. And it's just basically a microwave link that goes from your studio through a dish out to the tower, to another dish, down to the receiver in the building, and then to the transmitter. Well, we can't do that because we can't afford it.
Oh,
and those things are kind of expensive.
Sounds expensive.
And then we have a long hop. It's a long ways to go from Barnesville up to our studio. And so we would need big dishes and tall towers to get the link.
Yeah.
A good link. Well, it just so happens that when we built the tower out there, the phone company put in fiber optic.
Oh, beautiful. Yes.
We have fiber optic at the tower. And so we have
That's
internet.
got to be a way better solution than the other one, isn't it?
We have a fiber optic link, and we have internet out the tower, and that's how we get our signal out there. We have a special stream set up at the studio. It's an AC plus stream. I don't know if you know anything about that.
Not a clue.
But
sure
it goes out to the tower, and it's we have a computer out at the tower that decodes it, and it feeds it right into our audio system out there.
Nice.
And we don't need an STL. The only problem with it, we're at the mercy of the internet.
Ah, gotcha.
And there are sometimes dropouts. And then
Elon will save us, though.
and then there's other problems like when your computer locks up, or if it goes for a month and you got to reboot it, and those sort of things we have to deal with. Whereas with an STL, you turn it on and it stays on.
Suppose there. But that fiber optic's got to be way cheaper to use. At least I'm just assuming, but
yeah,
it just seems so simple.
Yeah. Basically, you have two computers.
Yep.
You have one at the studio to generate the stream, and you have one out at the tower to decode it. And what's a computer cost these days? A few $100.
Yep.
You could probably build one for less than $400.
Oh, easy.
A good one. And what we've been using is we have a friend in Minneapolis that works in security.
Okay.
And he upgrades computer systems and security systems. And he keeps calling me and saying, "Hey, Ken, we've got some Windows 10 computers for you if you want them." And so, I'll say, okay, no problem. For the most part, we're pretty old school. Our studio has Windows 10 and Windows 7.
Hey, they work.
All the rest are XP.
XPs, those are definitely the rocks, yeah.
And the computer out at the tower site is an old XP, and it just keeps clunking away.
Oh, exactly.
And
it's a great operating system.
like I said, every so often you have to reboot it because it tends to kind of lock itself up. And so, if you're listening to the station and you hear every once in a while, you'll know, well, Ken has to go and reboot something.
You can blame Bill Gates for that. No, I'm kidding.
Yep.
I'm kidding. But talking about destruction, ready for a little juvenile destruction? All right, well, here's this week's Off the Roof. Well recycled off the roof.
Please hang up and try again.
Is that what that is?
Yep. What's the randomness? That was perfect game, too. You're hired. You're probably wondering all about this throwing stuff off the roof. Well, I grew up in this house, and I bought it for my dad years and years ago, but basically we had the old ragers going on. At some point, sometime, someone was on the roof throwing some kind of piece of electronics onto the driveway. And that's just what happened, so we're just keeping the tradition alive here. Just throwing other random stuff off the roof just to see what happens.
Well, that
It's always fun to break things.
It reminded me so much of my roof. If you ever get a chance to drive by the house, you can't miss it because of all the antennas and stuff on the roof. And,
That's I thought was your house. I think I know exactly where it's at.
it's a little brown and white house on North Broadway.
Wow.
And one year, there's a tripod up there with a couple of, it used to be a couple of Yagi antennas.
Okay.
I think there's one left. And it had guide. And the guys gave out during one big windstorm, and the tripod came over.
Oh, no.
And so,
Oh, no.
if you look real carefully, I resurrected the tripod. If you look real carefully, the only thing holding that tripod up is the guy wires, because the three legs
Yeah.
are twisted.
Oh God, we gotta go look at that.
It's really funny.
Piece of artwork now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Definitely a piece of artwork. All right, Ken. Well, we're basically out of time for this episode, but we're definitely going to have you back on talking some of these stories and everything else that you got.
Oh,
you definitely have a wealth of information about all this fun stuff,
But,
and that you're helping out all these bands and all that other great things. You know, I really applaud that. I really do.
it was one of the big things that we wanted to do was to tie ourselves to the community to be able to provide a service and provide a venue,
Yes.
a free venue for bands to play for their peers. And I can't think of any better way to do that than to use a radio station.
I can't.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
I have a blast every time we get a band to come downstairs to wire them up, hook them up, and record them. To me, that's fun. Some people may not think, oh, it's a hassle. No, it's a ton of fun.
Exactly.
And it's amazing. Over the course of time, we've been able to get some really, really good recordings out of that little basement.
Oh, I bet. There's a lot of great musicians out there, and I was in the originals things a long time ago before any of this stuff started, but no, I would have loved having someone like you around at those times, just to be able to help, just the promotion of it by itself, much less having just the recording of it, and that's just a great thing. So thank you for what you do, Ken.
Well,
That's
you're quite
awesome.
welcome. Thanks for having me on the show, too. I appreciate it. It's a great experience.
Oh, it's always fun. Freaking love this. You realize we've gotten well over an hour now.
That's unreal.
Yeah, it just
I
goes
thought-
just like that.
Yeah, it goes real quick. But yeah, there's still a lot to talk about. There's still a lot of information I can give you on what it took to put all this together.
Exactly.
Like
That's
I
just,
alluded
to me,
to.
that's fascinating. Just like, how in the hell did you get this even going? But
The big thing was that there are a lot of things that I couldn't do because of my dedication to this radio station. I'm not married. I don't have any kids. All that sort of thing.
yep,
I could not have done this if I would have been married and had a family, because you have to be dedicated to one thing or another. And this is my baby.
gotcha. Do the legacy.
And everything that I have saved, everything that I've ever earned, has all gone into this. So, all the IRAs, all of the bank accounts, everything that I'd ever saved, all went into getting this done. And as it was, I still needed help. And fortunately, our family farm trust was able to help build our tower site. The money that I got from them built the tower out there by Barnesville.
That's awesome. We can't go on a better note than that. So, thank you again for being on, Ken. Definitely got to have you back on one more time. But you can find us. Actually, where can we find you at, Ken? I got a bunch of links below, but where can we find you?
We have a website, Kensfm.com.
There you go.
We are also up on Facebook, and Facebook is Kensfm 89.1.
And all the links will be down below for all that fun stuff, so you should be able to find them right there and everything else. And for Chris Hanson's wake and funeral and all the other stuff. And also you can find us at Uptown Tonight Podcast at Gmail or uptownbandfargo.com, which has all of our stuff on there, or uptownbandfargo.com at Gmail. And everything else, you got something you want to throw off the roof, you want to see something destroyed online, we'll definitely do that for you. Throw it in my yard, I don't really care, we'll come pick it up. And all that stuff. We're on the Tiki Taks and the Instagrams and all the other fun type of things under the same name, Uptown Tonight Podcast. So remember, if your drummer has more charisma than your front man, your band may be in trouble. But that's why my band's doing just fine. So until next time.
It's just a little baby turtle. Look at him go.